Hello and welcome to Stampscapes Friday Night Live. We have some new designs that'll be coming out probably this next week, and I thought I would do some foundation landscapes that I can just pop my some of the new designs right into when they do arrive. The first one, I thought I would use one of the larger Deanna Tubbs background papers here. I think this is kind of like a test paper. They don't come this size. They're really more quarter page, 4¼ by 5½. But she sent me some other kind of test papers, maybe. And I thought this one would be fantastic for an underwater scenario. Okay, so I have these orcas underwater here, and okay, I don't have the stamps here, but this should be right to size. And if I can put those like right swimming around right in here, I see this as like a light beam, and I can add in some additional crepuscular underwater rays coming through this scenario right here. And I thought I could frame them off with some additional rocks, and I like using my twisting leaves here, the large and small, to represent kind of like giant sea kelp. So that works really good for that. Okay, so this is a pre-printed paper. It's not the ones that you get in the kits. Her kits, she probably just printed this out at home. It looks excellent, but I'm just saying that the ink should be a little bit different. But the ink that I'm using for this is are the hybrid inks. So you can probably use, whatever types of inks. You got to just kind of test out your different inks to see which ones work best, again, on these pre-printed papers. And she happened to print this on a matte paper, so keep that in mind. You want to go for, some really dark impressions just in general most of the time. Sometimes if I'm stamping on metallics and I want kind of lighter impressions, maybe something's going to represent something like a deep pea soup fog or something like that, then maybe you want, your impressions to be lighter. But anyways, test away. Hello, Candy and Bonnie. Good to see you. How are you both? Happy Friday to you. All right. This is the boulders with lichen. Again, this one, the scene is going to represent something underwater. I need some starfish or something like that I can stamp on those. Let's do this. I'm stamping them at an angle like this. So you can do like these whole shelves like this to actually, maybe I'll do that. All those underwater formations or reefs are at all different angles. Go right here. I haven't done an underwater scenario in a little bit of time. I can't remember the last time I did one. I mean, someone might come up and say, comment and say, hey, Kevin, you just did last month or something like that. But I don't remember doing that for a while. Or like an above surface, underwater surface type of thing. The one that, I don't know, the one that comes to mind, it seems, is kind of a Father's Day one a few years ago. And I had this fish kind of coming up, one of my big symmetry sheet fish. And then I ordered these cheap real fishing lure flies, and I just kind of put one of those real flies in there as like a three-dimensional, I don't know, whatever, prop. And that was pretty fun. I still have those. I haven't used those up. Okay, I'm going to mask this off right here and just go for another little shelf right in here. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to go for a lighter impression. Hello to everyone. Linda, Megan, Julia, how are you? stamping an underwater scenario here. I'm going to stamp this one off once. I wonder if that was enough. And try to go for a lighter impression right in here. I tell you what I'll do is I'll just kind of wipe this off a little bit too. And we'll go something like this. I'm not gonna go parallel with this. I'm gonna kind of, the first one's stamped like that. The next one, I'm gonna change the angle slightly and we'll go like this. Kind of undermask your first stamped rocks, just so you don't get this big gap in between this background rock and the foreground rocks. I mean, if you know, it's supposed to fade off anyway, but you know, I want it to largely, you know, match up like that. Maybe I wiped off too much off the bottom part here. Let me try to go for another one right in here. I didn't mean to have like nothing down here. So I'm just going to take this other impression. No, we better re-ink. So this one's going to be like a lot lighter right in here. So I'll ink up like that. Stamp off. Blot off a little bit. And stamp in here. You'd see how much of that image I have showing in there. I'll tell you what, I went with that impression like that. Let's change the angle a little bit like that. Maybe I didn't use enough pressure, you know. I mean, the paper towel is thin, but it still is dimensional, so you are stamping off into a little bit of a, you know, depression when you create those sides like that. Okay, so we have that right in there. And then I'll do my, looks like underwater already. If you just joined in, this is one of the test papers from the Deanna Tubsidio background paper collection. You'll have to ask her directly if she has some of these test papers. She sent me some of the papers that, if I'm not mistaken, they didn't select for their packaged set papers, okay? Unless this one was, and she just sent me a larger version to play around with instead of the quarter page. Okay, so again, this is what I was just showing people earlier. I'm just doing these kind of layouts so that when I get my new stamps in, I can just kind of plop these right into the scenario here. So I'm going to use these orcas right here that are underwater and put them right in here. Add in some additional light beams, rays, underwater light beams into this area. So I need to kind of keep that in mind as I stamp this layout. I don't want to leave like zero room for, you know, my main imagery. A lot of times my main imagery, you know, for years and years and years, they were really small designs, you know. It was like, you know, here's this little woman with a stroller, you know, they're largely silhouette, and here's a little animal. You know what I mean? You don't really have to kind of consider them when you're stamping your whole scene out. You might think, okay, I'm going to stamp a deer into this scene or something like that. But usually in the past, they were kind of smaller, silhouetted, so they can almost be afterthoughts too. But when you start dealing with, you know, really larger subject matter like that, of course, you know, you have to kind of stamp out your scenario accordingly, or stamp out the, you know, your subject matter first and work around it. But for these ones, of course, I don't have it yet, so, you know, I'm just approaching it like I usually do, with a little bit of extra consideration of leaving some, you know, extra space, or the space that's needed. Yeah, Bonnie, yeah, I hope you get better soon. You know, hope you're on the road to recovery. It sounds like you are. Continued recovery there. Hopefully a nice, as I always say, boring recovery. No, you know, no complications, you know. That's always the best. As you're watching this video, take a lot of liquids and hydrate. Watching this video is can dehydrate oneself. But yeah, glad you're feeling better. Okay, so these are the twisting leaves. I was mentioning this when I started this video here, but I always thought this design worked really well as like a giant sea kelp. I'm gonna do it like this. I'm gonna try to have this vine right here, and have this, but have this go behind the rock. But then I'll have some of the leaves in front of the rock right there. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so what I did was I inked up with black, and then I kind of, hopefully, I highlighted a little bit with this green here so that we get kind of multi-toned leaf impressions. They're two different types of ink, so I don't know if it worked or not. And this pen's kind of dry. And sometimes that works better because it removes more of the whatever inked ink. Okay, holding this down a little bit longer. This is dye-based ink, so it needs to really absorb, and it's not as thick as the hybrid ink because it doesn't have the as much pigment ink, if I'm removing it with this. So the hybrid inks are part dye-based and part oil-based pigment, okay? As far as I understand, I don't know. Yeah, okay, see that right there? There's a little bit of that variation in there. So it's not just like a solid black, so it has a little bit of tone in it, like that. All right, let's see. I think I'm leaving room for my orcas right there. Okay, these ones right here will go right in here, like that. And when you do stuff like this, you're kind of like adding kind of like the framing around your subject matter. So everything's kind of wide open like that. I mean, if you have those whales in there, the viewer's eye is going to go right to them. But if you just kind of contain it a little bit more like this, it provides a little bit more of this framing, which can potentially make for a stronger composition that way. Let's go for a couple of these leaves right in here like this. See, every kind of points over to them, to it. Well, this one's going out that way, but when you do things like that, it provides an extra, kind of visual lead to a directional whatever lead towards your subject matter. Okay, let's add in some of this green like so. And let's do this. Don't go too far over where you didn't ink up, things, which happens to me sometimes. It's like, oh, I didn't ink up enough. So I always try to over ink. Okay, let's see. I don't know if I said hello to Jeannie. Sheila, good to see you. Oh, underwater's your favorite scenes, dude. That's cool, Linda. We should do underwater Halloween scenes. Hello, Laura. Good to see you. Oh, the otters. Yeah, yeah. I can't wait to use those. I had so much fun doing like baby sea turtle scenarios, so it's like, okay, we need a few more like shoreline types of images, focal points. I really liked there's this one quote that went so perfectly with the baby sea turtles, and that was the one that it was something about something of a lifetime, maybe beginning with the first steps, or I don't know, like a first steps quote. I can't remember exactly how it went, but or the journey of a lifetime maybe begins with, like the first steps or something like that. I love using that. I love using that quote stamp with those turtles. I can't decide which direction I want to put this one in. If I do this like this, I'm really covering up a lot of this rock. But do I do it like this way? I want this to be like I don't want this to continue up like that as if it's like the same brand, kelp though. I guess it would look okay, but then you do it like this and it looks like the same one too. Okay. We'll just decide. We'll be a little bit more decisive like this. Yeah. The haunted depths candy. I guess we could put like a, mask and snorkel on all of our, like zombies and things like that. We'd have to draw them in though. Laura, this is one of the Deanna Tubsidio. Not her pre-printed papers, but it's one of her test papers. She sent me some I don't know what you'd call them. Just like test papers or something like that. I don't know. You know what? I didn't really ask her, but she mentioned. She said, "Hey, I'm going to send you out some of my new papers," and she said, "Yeah, some of a couple of them. I guess the way they do it is it's like the way they used to do my designs at a stamp of the hand is you come with a bunch of designs and you submit them, and when they're coming out with the new designs." And they would just say, okay, we want to use this one, this one, this one. So I guess that's the way they're deciding on her papers too. I don't know if she has any say in it or sway, but if I'm not mistaken, I thought some of the ones that she sent to me were the ones that were not chosen. Okay, I don't know, I don't know if it's, but then she might have sent me both. She might have sent me some of the ones that were larger too. So like this one right here. I don't know if they chose this one, but I don't know. Some of the ones that she, had hoped they would choose, they didn't choose. So I don't know. I think she just, I said, hey, maybe you ought to just print them out yourself. I mean, she's not working behind their back. They, they didn't accept them. I don't know. Maybe they would in a future release. I don't know. But this is one of them. But I don't know. Isn't that perfect? It's like a space one, though. It's more like a kind of like a nebula type of scenario. Like deep space type of thing. But I think those deep space ones are really fantastic for underwater as well. So, and this one already gave me like cues, like this streak right here. So I'm going to add in my additional light beams in here. And I thought that would really be fantastic. You stamp in your whales like this, okay? And, you have some light beams going behind them like this one, but I'll add one that's kind of going like through here and in front of, the whales in a couple areas, maybe one or two, maybe a little bit of a larger one coming down like that, and maybe a thin one over here. I don't know, I'll have to decide. But anyways, that is my first kind of foundation composition for these whales right here. I just took a look at this like 5 minutes before I started this video. I thought, okay, let's come up with some scenarios so that when I get the new designs, and I'll be able to just stamp these out. But I don't know, I just flipped through some papers real quick, and I thought, okay, this one looks like it can be underwater. So I don't know. I need to get in the groove of it. I haven't been thinking about stamping. I've been thinking about designing for a while. So, but yeah, there's all these different types of papers right here. Like this one right here. Doesn't that look like it looks like a twilight glow or something. This looks like water to me. So speaking of like things like the turtles, I I could add those turtles in here and make this a shoreline, but I feel like I'd be kind of forcing it into this scenario right here. So I think what I'm going to do on this one, let me see, I don't have another piece of paper, but you'll have to imagine this, but what I'll do is I'll make this into a horizon paper maybe or something like that, and make this the water right here, and then make this the shoreline. I can put, you know, like a turtle or something like that, crawling out of the water right down here. So it's one of those horizon cards like that. Not a reflection card, but a horizon card. But I think something like that would be really cool. The thing about when you're doing that, you're just kind of starting off with a white piece of paper like that and going with, you know, colored pre-printed paper up top. You really want to bring some of these tones into this area down here. And you don't have to match it up perfectly, but it's good to kind of, you know, match it up. I don't know, maybe like with 50% or something like that at least, or better, to make those two separate panels, you know, a little bit more matched and harmonized. You harmonize with each other. All right. Okay, so that is that. Now, not flipping around all these other sets here, but I thought I would do something for the orcas right here and come up with some scenario for that. And we can stamp them in a lot of different scenarios. One of the things that I used to see when people stamped orcas out would either put them in like a Arctic type of scenario, which looked really cool. But I thought I would do this one more like in a Pacific Northwest type of scenario, going through you know, some islands or something like that. I don't know what they call it, Puget Sound or something. And let's see. So again, these are some larger types of designs right here. Here's like a larger one, smaller one. You can do them all like they're in the same pod too. You can do these ones kind of lower. I would probably stamp them lower down here or center, and I would put the smaller ones up top here, maybe, if you were to use them together like that. But I thought we would do something with nature set number 41 designs, which would work really well. And it was also just already on my desk. Something like that. Again, big stamp, so leave plenty of space. Now, like I said, I make, you know, I design my stamps for quarter page cards, you know, so this one would take up, if we're doing a vertical, this one would really take up all the space on that lower section. Then you can just stamp like one or two objects up top, or you can do like a horizon or something up there and do sky images, and that would be really dramatic. You know, Milky Way or something like that, or this would be, I think, like orcas or something like that. They're already kind of dramatic, so if you paired those up like in a horizon card with, you know, you have the orcas down below, then you have this kind of this, maybe not that color there, but you pair them up with, here's a really great one right here, a nighttime type of scenario with the you know, northern light type of thing going on up top. I think these things would be really great on that lower section. It could be a reflection card too, so something like that was one of those things that I was thinking about a lot when I was thinking about these creatures like this, having something else for that lower section of a you know, horizon card. So anyway, let's see, let's get to this right here. For this one right here, for my first orca card, when I get these stamps in, I think I'm going to do it landscape like this, because, you know, the design is kind of longer, so kind of keeps it in theme with the the design dimensions, ratio, I guess, specifically. But again, you don't have to. Okay, let's see. Okay, I was thinking about adding some greens to this. Let's just do it in black here. Let's just keep this really simple. Let's do it like this too. Let's blot this off like this. And I'm gonna try to make this scenario like it's a really foggy situation. So you're wiping off quite a bit down here, and then you wipe off a little bit less. So I'm using a little bit less pressure as I go up there, okay? Now, if you're working with a really super juicy black pad, sometimes you have to take off more than you think. Sometimes I start wiping off like this, and then I stamp it out, and it's like as dark as the top part, you know, and when I stamp it out, because it's because I didn't remove enough down low, so I don't know, keep that in mind. I don't know, you can just make it visual too. You can feel and see when you've removed a lot of that ink. But I know a lot of people keep their black pads like super, super juicy. So, you know, if you stamp it out and it's like completely dark on the bottom portion, you can remove more ink the next time, or you can take and stamp it off once, maybe a little bit lightly, and then remove, and then stamp it onto your scene. Sunken shipwreck. Oh, that would be perfect, Laura. Yeah, yeah. Like pirate, you know, types of scenarios or something like that. That'd be cool. It's one of my favorite rides. All that stuff like Pirates of the Caribbean, but you can just do it like that type of scene, but underwater. Anyone ever have like an aquarium? When I think about that, I think about that one. There was this like, I don't know. It seems like I saw it every time, all the time when we were in the pet stores, like kids. There was always that like sunken treasure chest that had that like air pump connected to it, so it would just like release a couple bubbles in this like chest that you have in your aquarium. And when that chest, you know, lid got, you know, enough air underneath it, it would like lift up and it would release all that water, you know, or that air, and then it would go back down again. But that's, I don't know, that's just like what I immediately thought of. But you see that scenario like that? So I used to stamp everything out just, you know, just straight black. And then, you know, how I like to go in and I add in my white pigment ink on the base and add kind of this misty type of foggy scenario to my scenes a lot of times, almost all the time. But at one point in time, not all the time, sometimes I don't, you know, I'm not thinking about that when I'm stamping out the composition, but I thought, okay, instead of adding so much white after I'm done coloring everything with white pigment ink, why not just leave it, you know, why not just have it lighter to begin with, so I won't have to add so much of that white pigment ink as the last kind of step there. So usually at the base of trees, like tree trunks, stuff like that, you know, sometimes I do wipe that off like that. And doing this too. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm allowing myself, like, okay, so if I put these orcas like right in here, okay, like right here, see where their dorsal fins are going up into this area. If this thing was like completely black down here, as black as that portion down here, you wouldn't be able to see them because that fin would go up right into all of that lower information, okay? So I wouldn't have to, I could stamp this, you know, instead of stamping it down here, I can stamp it like all the way up here if I want to. Okay, so it just gives me more options too. And plus it looks kind of cooler, I think, you know, giving it that additional kind of visual depth in there. Okay, so these ones, you know, I'll put somewhere like down in here. I'm seeing, like something like this. Or like over here. I usually don't like them here because that's like too close to this part where they're exiting the piece, so I'd probably have them at least over here. Preferably like in here, I usually do, where they have a lot of room to go. So if they're facing left, I put them on the right side. A little bit right, I don't know, right or center. I don't know. This one's like coming in here. If I put this over here, then it's a little bit too much, but there's 3 others right here, so it's largely to the left of, to the right of center. Okay, but also if I go over here, if I'm going to put in the, if I'm going to have this other, where are they? Down here, then I'll just move them a little accordingly. So again, that's what that serves to do. It gives me some options as far as, that second grouping right in there. Okay, so that being said, let's add this in the background here, I think. That. So, when you're stamping your imagery, wipe it off first. Wipe your stamps for dramatic effect. I can see that, like, put into quotes somewhere. All right. That being said, if we stamp this out like this, all in black, I mean, it'll look fine, but let's do this right here. Let's create that kind of extra, I don't know, whatever, foggy day scenario effect. Let's wipe it, or stamp it off one. I stamped it pretty good. And then I'll wipe this one off at the base. Kind of wipe it off pretty good off the base like that. And then I'm wiping kind of lightly up here like that. And hopefully I have this transition, a good transition in here, instead of just all dry and then wet, the same dampness. Sometimes I don't get that because I don't know, it's like wetter than I thought. So you remove less ink than what you thought. So that's usually the case with me if I kind of err on that and I don't get what I kind of am thinking. It's usually darker than what I thought it would be. I rarely stamp it out where it's like, oh my God, I can't even see the image anymore. Especially when it comes to black ink here, because you're starting off with the darkest, potentially the darkest color that you have. So keep that in mind. The thicker the ink too, if you're stamping something on, I don't know, like a matte paper and you're going for, you're using your VersaFine Clair, it's a thicker ink too, so you might have to remove more of that than like a thinner ink in the dye-based or something like that. I don't think you can even do it with you wouldn't be able to work fast enough, I don't think, to do it with like StazOn. By the time you kind of dry it off on the bottom of your things and transition it a little bit, that ink is going to be dry on the stamp, I think. All right. Yeah, there we go, like that. That fog, needless to say, when you're toning in your scene, you can't go really too dark up here because your background imagery is going to disappear. So that's about as dark as I take my toning, when I get around to that step. I don't know, do you guys do that? Do you guys wipe off your stamps, for varied value impressions? All right, let's add in. Do I add in some? Nah, let's not add in any foreground yet. Let's build this up a little bit. It's a little bit too much sky in here, open sky. Gotta find a good, there we go. One of the things I haven't played around with too much is going like dark, lighter, and then something in the distance going darker again. So you have this pocket of kind of lightness in here. But you could do it. You can kind of oscillate light and dark in terms of depth. And that looks pretty cool sometimes. I think I did it once with like a white pigment ink on foil scenario. For me, the thing that's just the easiest is going like darker in the foreground, and then it goes lighter and lighter, lighter and lighter. Okay, that's what I usually do. The light, dark, you know, oscillation in terms of depth, representative depth. I oscillate tone all the time, just, you know, to vary everything. But when it represents depth, I don't usually do that too much. It's it melts my brain. All right, so some additional trees. Let's go for another impression right here. I think you could stand it. Let's see. Let's wipe off more ink like that. Like that. Okay. Oh, dare I go for another one? I was just about to do that thing. They called it huffing, right? Where you go for that additional impression. I haven't heard that term in a long time. Do you guys know that huffing term? People used to kind of mention that all the time. So you kind of breathe on it to give a little bit of extra moisture. All right, here, let's go like that again. And this one's going to be a little bit dark here, but I'm putting it over here though. So I usually want my perimeter to be a little bit darker anyway. I don't know if Jeannie's still here. This is like this is right around where Jeannie lives. All right, so there's that. Yeah, I always like, my instinct is to put, you know, some other type of foreground imagery in here, but I'm going to have these whales right here. So, you know, they wouldn't be in like this little, I don't know, whatever, little tiny canal. So I think I better hold, you know, before I do something like that. Yeah, I don't think I should put another, unless I put like another, like, couple trees, tall trees in here or something like that. But I'll decide that later on. I don't think so, though. I don't know. It wouldn't be bad to have like one on one side. But I think I better stamp my my main imagery first. Maybe I'll go for this and the smaller version right up in here. But see, this will be like this kind of real moody, hopefully moody looking scenario like that. And I still have opportunity in here. I can put anything I want in there. Maybe nothing too dark though. But I can put, you know, kind of like a lighting scheme in here if I want to. And because it's all just done in black too, you really have the opportunity for, you know, whatever color scheme you want to go with in here. I don't know if I'd do like sunset tones, but I guess you could. But anyway, that's for my orcas above water. Let's see. I want to try some of these different things on different papers too. So I thought I would just do some really quick ones here. I don't think this wood grain paper is available anymore, but like the vintage and the suede papers, no problem. There's so many different versions of them. But let's see. Let's come up with a couple different scenarios there. So Laura was mentioning the otters. Let's do like a little quick scenario right here. So with these otters right here, we're adding in this other little element in here. that, I don't know, whatever. I see it as like a cute element, you know, with these otters, sea otters here. So I'm going to put like this, like a tide pool, because, you know, they're not out in the deep sea or anything like that. So I'm going to try to come up with some different scenarios right here for some really quick scenes. Oh, maybe I want to do those sandpipers too. Okay, I'm switching back to my hybrid ink here. This one was done on the glossy cardstock, and I think the hybrid ink with the pigment ink component in here, I think that would smear potentially. I don't know, didn't I? I think that did when I was using that vellum scene. And I think when I colored the hybrid ink on semi-gloss cardstock, it was like smearing everywhere. So there's just, you know, I mean, it's just, you know, pigment ink really sits on the surface, so it doesn't absorb into the pulp of the paper. So I don't know, choose your papers accordingly. Oops, there's my dye basting. Get that. Do this right here. Kind of the rocks along the shoreline. And then what I'll do, I thought I would do this branch again, like it's like some kelp like floating out here maybe. I don't know if anyone knows Angela from Rubber Stamp Madness, but she was going out to the Oregon coast I think a few days ago. There's going to be some minus tides out there, so really low tides, and where she goes out and explores the tide pools out there. Halloween underwater would be a first. Yeah, it would be, huh? We can do like underwater caves and stuff like that. That might be kind of interesting. I don't know if you guys have like a, Linda, do you have some like a what was I gonna say? I don't know, like different fish or anything like that. Or you can do, I don't know. You can just convert some kind of terrestrial monster into a, you know, an aquatic one, I think. Okay. Now this would probably be better if I had some of this kind of like, I don't know, I did something to it, like put some like water ripples over the top of this, or the water pattern, which I could do, you know, to make it look like it's more kind of under the surface. Maybe what we'll do is I'll do this right here. We'll ink it up, and then we'll blot it off a little bit so it's just not like dark. And I'll put some of this green on it like this. So we'll go for a potentially a much lighter impression. Like I said, here's the thing. I'll probably stamp this in, and it's going to be just as dark as this one, if not darker. Yeah, like that. Okay. So we have this little guy right here, you know, or you can put that, any one of these really. Well, guys, I guess you can put two of them. Otter colony, is that what they call it? And let's do a couple of these smaller twisting leaves as well. This pen is like super dry, but it's like serving its purpose here really nicely with it being dry. I really need to re-ink this. If you ever need to re-ink a Marvy brush marker, you just take this out right here. You put a few drops of re-inker fluid down here. Now, if you don't have the Marvy re-inker fluid and I don't have the olive green, then what you do is you drop in like a lighter green in here. And you know, if it comes down to tossing a pen out or something like that and just re-inking it with another color, a different brand or something like that, you should be able to throw some down in there. And then what you do is you kind of put a couple drops on the tip here to get it feeding, then you have kind of a rejuvenated pen. Again, it might not be the exact color, you know, of that ink, you know, that it was to begin with, but, you know, for me, I don't know. I don't really care about that too much. I know some do, so that it's like a, that would be doing the unthinkable, but I blend so many colors anyways. I hardly ever use a color, just one color, and just don't do anything above that. I don't, you know, I usually layer it with something. If it's not another color of ink, it's another medium. All right, so anyway, yeah, like that. Like that, and I think that's a good scenario for, you know, like this little guy right here. Like that, kind of. We'll drop them right down in here like that. Let's do something too. I mean, it's not supposed to be like in super shallow water, like a couple feet deep, you know. They're swimming around in, you know, deeper water, you know, going the tides and grabbing their things. But this is a little bit too plain for me, so I'm going to put in, you know, some other textures in here with the tiny rocks small, like that. See, I don't look better like that. It goes for, we need some textural variation in here. And this kind of frames off, you know, our object right in the center there. Now this one right here, because I have such a large animal, I mean, this looks really incomplete, but you know, it's a big focal point that we'll be adding in here. Okay. Yeah, the sea turtles could be swimming in the water. That's true. Oh, yeah. So that's right. When I was doing this too, I thought, you know, if you don't color in some of these parts right here, you can have them swimming like that. I'm looking forward to these ones too. I see like a sunset or something, or a moon, and I want to create these shadows down here from these little baby turtles like that. I have the, you know, the other turtles too, but you know, they're really small and they're going out that way. They're almost like more silhouettes, but on these ones right here, there's this little space underneath them, so we can create these directional shadows. I don't know, maybe even, you know, do something like a moon rising, you know, with these baby sea turtles like this, you know, underneath a moon, full moon. Could be glow in the dark, doesn't have to, you know. But I thought that'd be really cool. Everything's kind of in theory until you really get it, but I don't know. I don't foresee kind of any problems achieving the types of things that are coming to mind. If anything, it usually expands on it, especially when I see how other people use the stamps. It's like, oh my God, never even thought to use it that way, you know, both old and new designs. Okay, let me add a little bit of tone to this one right here. So this one right here, this rock is supposed to, it represents kind of something on shore, so it's not underwater. So I'm going to give it a little bit of tone here, like this. Maybe it's covered with a, you know, some seaweed or something like that. Future release, we'll have things like starfish and stuff like that, you know, that we can add. Well, think about kind of rocks like this for a shoreline. and tide pools is that if you have the starfish separate and they're kind of more of a silhouette, I guess you can color them with a certain color and then stamp them. But that's not going to have a lot of detail. So if you have kind of a more of an open starfish, kind of an open area, the thing about that is you can stamp these things out and you can color those starfish any color you want. They're not always like orange. They come in all kinds of, different colors. Maybe not for in a certain area. Maybe they're all similar colors. I don't know, where I grew up, it was like red and reddish orange and, brighter oranges. But I don't know, I've seen them like purple. I don't know, what other colors do they come in? I don't know, there's a variety of them. So if you have them kind of on the rock already in a different design, you can do that, because they're going to be drawn into the design. Maybe, I don't know, maybe have like some rocks, tide pool rocks or something like that. And then maybe there's another starfish that you can stamp in there on existing rocks or something like that, or something like this right here. So those like the design kind of dilemmas that come to mind when I'm thinking about doing these designs. Do you do things separately? Do you have them integrated? Do you do some shadow or none? Yeah, that type of thing. All right, anyways, adding this in like that, giving it a little bit of a mass. Do you see that little bit of that light that I retained on the tops of these rocks right here? So instead, remember, when you're coloring kind of rounded form like my fist here, if you leave a little bit of, this lighting right here, like right up there, okay, then you're coloring and you're lighting at the same time. And it's just by the retention of some of that lightness of your surface that you're using. Or, you just don't go as dark as your darkest of areas. You can I can come up here and color this with blue. It just wouldn't stand out as much, so I usually go for a little bit more contrast. But you can see my hand right here, and there's lighter areas like on each one of these, like knuckles right here, and that's the same type of thing that is going on right here. So just, you can leave more lighting in there if you want to, or less, or whatever. But the retention of some of it makes things look a little bit more rounded. Let's go a little bit more shadow down here. That. If you're coloring the colored pencils, just probably get most of your stamping done before you color in like this, because sometimes the impressions and inks don't stick as well to like waxy, layers of colored pencil after you, do it. So your stamping done first. But there's our otter cove scenario like that. I might add in some more things in here. Let me see like this. Let me try something here. Let's do this with this dye-based ink like this. And let's really stamp this out like that. Let's do it twice like that. And let's see if I can get a really super light impression in here, real faint. Yeah, something like that. I think going like that a couple times might be okay. I don't want to put too much more, but I was just seeing if that looks like it's under the surface a little bit more. Let's do something like this too. Let's bury it a little bit with some tone, like this maybe. Or I can come in with like some dye-based ink like this maybe. Now, if this were on a white piece of paper, I'd be doing this like, I don't know, blue or whatever, gray, bluish gray, or whatever, tone the sky is maybe. You can do this with a sponge too if you want to. I'm just using a paper towel. Okay, but see this? Yeah, no, I might go darker, but if you put these little areas like this that are a little bit darker on the perimeter, let me see, let me add a little bit more. It's bringing more of the focus right in here. This looks more illuminated in here now, going a little bit darker up top, or in the four corners especially. Like that, so vignettes. I think most people do this. You know, sometimes it's just a little bit of a small area, but I think most people do that. You know, that to frame off their subject matter. All right, something like that. And there's our beaver. I mean, not beaver, otter. Our otter scenario here, or foundation, I guess. I might, you know, we might be adding in more later on to see what you know, that might look like. But yeah, any one of these right here would be pretty cool. I think this one right here, but this bigger one too. Otter and pup, maybe not. I put that otter and pup probably over this way a little bit more, so I wouldn't put it. I don't know if this stamped out large enough or dark enough. I guess I could put it over some of that kelp, and then that would reinforce that that kelp is kind of a little bit more underwater there. I don't know. We'll see when we get to that. Let's see. Underwater stamps and your natural bridge set 33 works well for underwater. That's cool. Yeah, yeah. I haven't done a large scenario. I've done 8.5 by 11, but it was a real simple underwater scenario on the foils, I think, though. Or did I? I might have done one on glossy before. I don't know if it was one of those where I laid down a bunch of colors and then I splatter paint it with some water to get that little bit of extra texturing in there, and then it kind of, you know, puts the the inks back into solution a little bit, and it has that kind of texturing, almost like a faux bleaching kind of technique. Yeah, I think I did that at one day. Yeah, now I'm kind of remembering. It might have even been larger than that. I don't know. I need to see if I still have that one around somewhere. I'd have to search on the channel maybe. Okay, so this is the suede paper disposable placemat papers. Okay, and I mean it has a really nice kind of texturing to it and surface. I haven't done this for a while, but I think the hybrid worked on this one really good. But this one's almost kind of a satiny, almost glossy coat on here. But I was looking at my test print paper right here. Luckily, I did this right here, but the hybrid worked really well on this. Stays on works really good too. I don't know, maybe the stays on works the best. Brilliance, the dye-based ink right here, you can see it's clearly lighter than here, here, and here, because these three right there, well, these two are pigment inks. Stays on, and what does VC stand for? I don't remember. But anyway, let's try something on this. Oh, let's do. Let's do something on this. Okay, now this is a really thin piece of paper, so let me see if I can do this. I was telling some people that sometimes when you're working with this large stamp, sometimes it's easier to take paper to stamp. Now this is really flimsy, so I don't know if this is going to work. If as I brayer across this, let's just go like this. I need to clean this stamp off too. It's got a lot of dry buildup on there, so I'll see if I can get a good impression. But okay, now, like I said, this is usually with cardstock, so this is a lot stiffer here. But let's see how this goes right here. I'm a little bit nervous about this in a live stream. Not that much, it's just paper, right? Okay, so I'm laying this down like this. Now this isn't a real wide width here that I'm going. Okay, so it's just 4 1/4. So I'm going like this, as opposed to doing this and running it from left to right. So I'm usually doing it from center out like this, okay? And that's so that this doesn't bunch up on me by the time I'm over there and then migrate the paper, like in this case, maybe like 1/8 of an inch or more sometimes, maybe, if you press too hard. So I'm just going really lightly like this. And, when this works like this, it's really easy to get impression. I got a little swirl right there. Okay, this paper is like really kind of juicy too. Let me try that one more time. So that was my practice one there. I'm always mentioning to people to practice up like that. Now, if this doesn't work right here, don't ever do that. It usually works pretty good for me. Okay, here. I don't think I migrated it there. I think that first time I kind of moved it a little bit. Okay, there we go. That's a little bit better. I get a little bit of this kind of motion in there, though. Well, we'll see. But I'm going to create a scenario for my little sandpipers here. Works better with the non-coated paper. Although the glossy is more absorbent here. Let me see in here. Let me see if I can go in and just, even if you get that little bit of a kind of swirl like that, what you can do is you can just go back in here like this and just kind of straighten it out right here. With that additional shading like that, okay? Well, let's add in those little, we'll create a foundation for those sandpipers here. Okay, I have that right there. Or the turtles, could be that too. Let's see. Oh, here. I have my little, or big ones too, my little islands here. Let's do this. Just a quick 1/4 page piece right here. These right here. And this one's a really small one here. Go like this. I'm trying to see if I want to put one right up there on the horizon. Let me see if I can stamp that out. and get a lighter impression right there. That might look farther back in the distance. All right, I have this set out right now with my little islands. I'm going to use this little sailboat, which I hardly ever do. Okay, and shoreline. Let's see here. So these sandpipers, like this, and then I have these other two sandpipers. Okay, this will be important right here because the sandpiper is really open right here. So let's see, let's keep like a dime-sized space in here, open for that body of the sandpiper, because I definitely don't want to. Sometimes I'll do that piecing where we add in, where we stamp something out, and I'll cut that piece out. I don't know. I guess I could. I just don't know. I don't want to do that if I have like 10 sandpipers in this scenario here, or I don't know, even like 5. You know, those little. I don't know, maybe 3 up there. But what we'll do is we'll create, this is kind of what I call spotlighting right here. It's usually not with a texture like this though. But see this right there, where you create this kind of lighter area in here. It's like creating this spotlit scenario, like staging, for a play or something like that. And anything you want the viewer to kind of, you want to bring the viewer's attention to, you have different spotlights on those characters right here. So here's one sandpiper right here. Here's another one right here. And let's put another one. Let's put another one right around here. All right, this is looking really sloppy. I need to add in a lot of extra tone in here, but something like that. So there's like 3 spots right in here for my sandpipers. So I've left a little bit of space in here that we can add into later, but a little bit of extra tone and darkness on the corner here. This. I can stamp that sandpiper right over the top of this, and those reeds are going to look like they're in front of it anyway, so that's not going to be a problem with that. The sandpiper's not going to look like it's in front of that foreground brush because this is an open brush, it's silhouette. So we have something like that for our little sandpipers, or turtles or something like that. I need to add in a bunch of white in here too to bring illumination to that area right in there. It'd be fun is to do I don't know, maybe these are too big for it, but you can do like a bookmark, like that's like really long. I guess it doesn't have to be to scale or something like that, but you can do like a really long like bookmark type of thing where you have these little sandpipers or something like that down in this lower area, or a couple of them if it's really narrow, and then you have one of these sea otters kind of a little bit higher up. Or you can put, I don't know, you can put a bunch of things in there too. It could be just a statement on sea life in general. You can put like, I don't know, 3 or 4 components in there. I probably wouldn't put the orca pod in there. I wouldn't want them getting eaten up like that, eating up sea otters, Although they do that right with the sea lions and everything like that. You always see those orcas kind of like beaching themselves going after those things. It's so wild. But anyways, okay, so some different scenarios like this. A couple different usages of the the kelp like this. You know, you know, sans actual kelp imagery, but I think that works really good. So we have some different scenarios here for some different images coming up here and here. Oh, I want to, I should do a scenario for that one. I'll do it later. I want to do like a really large piece with one of these here too. And I want to do this one like, I don't know, my first scene with these ones right here. I think I want to do it like in a, I don't know, dramatic, I don't know, sunrise or sunset, maybe sunset scenario with this one right here. So, I don't know. I'll do that like on a, maybe like on a half page. I wanted to do something with a lot of sky too, drama right here. So I'd have these down here like this with, I don't know, something going on up here. I don't know, I said maybe Northern Lights or something like that, or maybe one of the holographics or something like this. This would be kind of interesting too. I've been, I haven't used this one yet because I've been saving this up, kind of thinking of some sort of scenario for it. This one was the, I forgot what type of holographic this was. Oh, Mary Lava right here. So I don't know. Maybe it's time to bust this one out. Maybe I'd cut it in half maybe, and I'll use it for something up top or something like that in a reflection card or something. But yeah, that would be fun. Oh, so we'll use some of the other ones too. I don't know, starry papers, things like this, for extra drama. And they look good in any kind of scenario, but I think it would match the drama of these types of larger mammals too. So anyway, hello, Catherine. How are you? All right, folks. So anyway, just some quick pieces like this. I've been preparing for the new line coming out, so I haven't been stamping too much here. I need to get that brayer. I need to test out that brayer again. Every time I did that brayer before, it didn't swirl on me like that. So I don't know if it's the thicker ink and the that placemat paper or what. But I don't know, maybe the other ink's probably absorbed into the paper much faster. So, but you can usually do that. I don't know. There's a couple of videos on it. I think it's called, there's one specifically for that Seaside Cove piece like that. No, if I'm doing a quarter page scene though, I just stamp it down like that. But it's just to show you if you're doing like some larger pieces, sometimes you got to get a lot of pressure across the whole surface for some larger scenes. Half page, horizontal or something like that, or definitely full page scenes too, where you're using this whole stamp like that. If you have a stiff enough paper, like cardstock, 110-pound weight or whatever, 10 point, 12 point, you can just lay it down on this, ink it up like this, and just, use your brayer across it. But just don't, like I said, don't go from one end to the other real hard, otherwise it'll migrate the paper as it's moving across like that. So you usually work it from the center out like that. Sheila, the new sets, my rubber guy received the shipment of plates yesterday. So it usually, I don't know how busy he is, so it usually means that in the past it's usually meant that the next day he starts working on the matrix molds, and he starts starts pressing the rubber. So he has my order in for the initial order of sets. So both unmounted and the pre-trimmed cling foam. So he has quite a bit of things to do. And sometimes he doesn't work on the weekend. Sometimes he might. Like if I said, hey, Ramiro, get those out. Can I get those out like ASAP? He would probably try to get it in over the weekend. But okay, so I don't know. I'm guessing I'll probably start receiving them mid to late this next week. I'm guessing. But anyways, yeah, I can't wait. VersaFine Claire, thank you, Linda. I haven't even using my VersaFine Claire in so long, so I wasn't even thinking about that one. Let's see, we have bright purple ones. Yeah, those bright purple ones are so cool. I've never been, I've never seen those like super bright ones, but yeah. So so Sheila, yeah, that's where, uh, I think I saw some photos from up there with some of those bright purple, sea stars. So, yeah. So I don't know. Like I said, that type of thing there, if it's drawn right into the design, then we can color those any color we want to. So yeah, those would be really fun to add into the scenario. Oh yeah, so I need to do all kinds of things like that too. So shorelines, like starfish and stuff like that along the beach or something like that would be really fun. And two, okay, so when I start doing these pieces too with these like shorelines and things like that and these little sandpipers, it might be time to bust out things like these little gradient things and add them into the scenario. So you go to some beaches and the sand and is really kind of shimmery, that especially that wet, kind of gravelly sand. So that's what I have like this type of thing for. Well, I have it for other things too, but I'm just kind of looking at it and enjoying too. But I want to use some of these types of things around shorelines and that type of thing. I'll put some rocks down here, but how not on this paper, but on other colors of paper. But like stuff like this would be really fun to use. I don't know. I need to find if I'm using a lot of it, I need to find some kind of better application method than one piece of glass shard at a time, I think. I don't know what that would be, like some different types of adhesive or something like that. I just use the standard crafter's glue. I don't know, is there some kind of other kind of glue or something like that, or something that goes on like maybe something that goes on as like a paste or something like that? Is there something like that out there where you can put little and it dries clear and then something like this I can just like drab it down there and it would go on there really easy. Sometimes this is like really thin, so it's like I'm kind of holding it down for it to set up a little bit before I kind of release it. But this is like so wet. Sometimes when I'm using my my little gem picker like this to pick up these things, when I lift up, it's the glass didn't transfer down, or it comes up with the the gem picker. So I need something a little bit thicker, I think, to be ideal. If I'm adding a lot of it. But yeah, so things like that, extra excuses for a little extra bling in the shoreline, so if I'm doing these kind of shoreline types of scenarios or something like that, more with these sea turtles and stuff like that, I think it'd be really fun to do. Or, it's just extra little touches like that in the shoreline. If anyone hasn't seen these before, these are really fun to, to apply if you have a kind of excuse in some scenes like this. So here's the silver one right here. Not that it's supposed to represent actual silver or something like that, but you can have like these little extra sparkly touches like this. Glitter would do that too in much easier fashion, but this these shards like this are really kind of like sparkly. So, they're really fun to use in scenes because it's kind of it stands out a lot. but it can also be like subtle when the light isn't shining on it or something like that. You know, it's just nothing. Then you kind of tilt the card in a certain way and it gets that little extra splashy bling like that. Yeah, some glitter might be fun around this, right around these splashing kind of waves down here in the orcas. Anyway, okay. Hypothetical scenarios right here on possibilities here. So I can't wait to utilize these. So designing is one thing, you know, but the utilization of it is another. I think it uses a different part of the brain, so I can't wait to get in the swing of that, you know, when I start using them. And can't wait to see what other people do with them too. That's when most of the ideas kind of explode, as you see all kinds of different usages on different media, you know, mediums and things like that. Everyone has their kind of like their favorite medium or, you know, a handful of them. So I see these designs used in so many different ways. All right. We have glow-in-the-dark green ones too. Oh my gosh, glow-in-the-dark green ones. What are they like phosphorescent sea stars or something like that? That's interesting. All right. Hope you all have a great weekend too. Thanks for checking out the live stream. I'm going to check out those, I'm going to go in and check out some of those glow-in-the-dark sea stars right now. That sounds really cool. It's like there might be another sea life coming out pretty soon or something like that, or tide pools or something like that. All right, good night, everyone.